If you think the Bible is only about being poor, humble, and waiting for heaven, you have been lied to. Historians estimate that King Solomon held a net worth of over $2 trillion in today's currency, making him the richest man to ever walk the earth. He did not get lucky, and he did not win a lottery. He possessed a secret code, a specific set of economic laws that the modern church is too afraid to teach you. Today, we are breaking the seal on the forbidden financial wisdom of the ancient world. Get ready to learn the money secrets that build empires. To understand the Solomon Wealth Code, we must first destroy the poverty mindset that has infected religious thinking for centuries. Most people are taught that money is the root of all evil, but Solomon taught that money is a defense. In Ecclesiastes 7 verse 12, he explicitly states that wisdom is a defense and money is a defense. He understood that without resources, you are vulnerable, you are exposed, and you are limited in your ability to affect change in the world. The first secret of the code is found in Proverbs 10 verse 22, which says, "The blessing of the Lord makes one rich, and he adds no sorrow with it." This is the cornerstone of the entire system. Notice that it does not say hard work alone makes you rich. It says the blessing makes you rich. This creates a terrifying distinction between the world's economy and the kingdom economy. In the world, you trade time for money, you grind, you burn out, and you sacrifice your health and family for a paycheck. That is wealth with sorrow. Solomon is revealing a higher dimension of finance, where wealth is attracted, not just pursued. This is what we call the flow state of abundance. When you operate under this blessing, opportunities find you. Deals close easier. The land yields its fruit without destroying your soul. But how do you activate this flow? This leads us to the most paradoxical secret in the entire scroll. Proverbs 11 verse 24 states, "There is one who scatters yet increases more, and there is one who withholds more than is right, but it leads to poverty." This defies all human logic. Your brain tells you that to get rich, you must hoard, you must save every penny. You must clench your fist tight around what you have. Solomon says that is the fastest way to become poor. He introduces the law of circulation. Money is like water. If water sits still in a pond, it becomes stagnant, toxic, and dead. For water to remain fresh and full of life, it must flow, it must move. Solomon taught that money must be scattered, meaning it must be invested, it must be given, and it must be circulated. When you withhold more than is right, when you operate out of a spirit of fear and scarcity, you are actually cutting off the flow. You are damming up the river. The secret is that you do not build wealth by accumulation, you build wealth by distribution. Look at the richest people in history. They did not become wealthy by stuffing cash under a mattress. They became wealthy by scattering their resources into investments, into businesses, into employees, and into charity. They understood that money is a seed. If you keep a seed in your pocket, it remains a seed forever. But if you scatter the seed into the ground, it looks like you are losing it. But in reality, you are positioning it to multiply. The church often teaches tithing as a tax or a rule, but Solomon taught generosity as a strategic mechanism for multiplication. In Proverbs 19 verse 17, he reveals a mind-blowing concept, saying, "He who has pity on the poor lends to the Lord, and he will pay back what he has given." Imagine the leverage of that statement. When you use your wealth to lift others, you are not losing money. You are loaning it to the Creator of the universe. And God is the only debtor who guarantees a return on investment. This is not prosperity gospel magic, this is spiritual economics. It changes your identity from an owner to a steward. An owner grips tight out of fear. A steward manages flow with confidence. This is why Solomon could manage an economy that made silver as common as stones in Jerusalem. He was not afraid of losing because he understood the source. He knew that the moment he stopped the flow, the blessing would stop. Most people stay poor because they are trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. Solomon taught us to become a pipe. As long as the water is flowing through the pipe always stays wet. As long as resources are flowing through your hands to bless the world, your hands will always be full. This requires a massive shift in psychology. You have to stop looking at your bank account as a storage unit and start looking at it as a distribution center. This is the first step in breaking the poverty code. You must stop trying to survive and start trying to circulate. But once you have the flow started, you need to know where to direct it. And this brings us to the next secret, which completely contradicts the modern advice of playing it safe. The second major secret of the Solomon Wealth Code is something that modern financial advisors call diversification, but Solomon called it a defense against disaster. In Ecclesiastes 11 verse 2, he gives a specific instruction that is almost eerie in its precision. He says, "Give a serving to 7 and also to 8, for you do not know what evil will be on the earth." This is the ancient equivalent of "do not put all your eggs in one basket." But it goes deeper than that. Solomon is acknowledging a dark reality of life on earth. Evil happens, markets crash, governments fail, currencies collapse, plagues hit. If your entire livelihood is tied to one source of income, you are one tragedy away from bankruptcy. Solomon commands us to spread our resources across 7 or even 8 different streams. This is not just about greed, this is about survival. It is about building an unbreakable financial fortress. Think about the average person today. They have one job, one paycheck, and one skill set. If that job disappears, their entire world crumbles. That is a fragile existence. Solomon built a kingdom that was anti-fragile. He traded in gold, he traded in spices, he traded in horses, he traded in timber. If the spice market crashed, he still had the gold mines. If the timber trade slowed down, he still had the textile industry. He was bulletproof because he was diversified. The number 7 in biblical numerology represents completion and perfection. Solomon is saying, complete your portfolio. Do not stop at 1. Do not stop at 2. Keep building streams until you are completely insulated from the chaos of the world. And notice he says, and also to 8. This represents going beyond the expected. It represents the overflow. This requires a shift in mindset from being an employee to being an investor. An employee works for money. An investor makes money work for them in 7 different places at once. You might say, but I do not have millions of dollars to invest. The principle applies to everyone. It starts with diversifying your skills. If you only know how to do one thing, you are vulnerable. Learn a second skill. Start a side hustle. Buy a small asset. The goal is to reach a point where no single event on earth can wipe you out. This is the definition of financial peace. It is not having a pile of cash. It is having multiple rivers flowing into your life so that if one dries up, the others keep running. This is why the Jewish community throughout history has been so resilient in the face of persecution. They followed Solomon's code. They invested in things that could be carried like diamonds or skills like medicine and law. They diversified so that they could start over anywhere. Solomon warns us that we do not know what evil will be on the earth. We cannot predict the future. We cannot predict the next recession, but we can prepare for it. The fool predicts and bets everything on his prediction. The wise man prepares and diversifies so that he wins no matter what happens. This leads us to the next secret, which attacks the very root of why most people stay broke. It is not a lack of money, it is a lack of speed and a lack of diligence. Solomon had zero tolerance for laziness, and he exposed the psychological trap of the sloth in a way that is brutal and necessary. Solomon identified the single greatest enemy of wealth, and it is not the government, and it is not the economy. It is the spirit of sloth. In Proverbs 6, verse 6, he gives a command that is humiliating to the human ego. He says, "Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider her ways and be wise." He is telling grown men to learn economics from an insect. Why the ant? Because the ant has no captain, overseer, or ruler, yet it provides its supplies in the summer and gathers its food in the harvest. The ant possesses intrinsic motivation. It does not need a boss screaming at it to work. It does not need an alarm clock. It understands the seasons. It knows that winter is coming, so it works relentlessly during the summer. Most people have the opposite mentality. They live for the weekend. They do the bare minimum to not get fired. They need external motivation to produce anything. Solomon calls this the way of the sluggard. And he paints a terrifying picture of the sluggard's future in Proverbs 24. He says, "I went by the field of the lazy man, and there it was, all overgrown with thorns. Its stone wall was broken down. Then I saw and considered it well. I looked on it, and received instruction, a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. So shall your poverty come like a prowler, and your need like an armed man." Notice the terrifying imagery. Poverty is personified as an armed robber. It does not knock on the door and ask permission. It kicks the door down and takes everything. Solomon is saying that laziness is not a victimless crime. It is an invitation to violence. When you refuse to work, when you refuse to improve, when you refuse to steward your time, you are leaving your door unlocked for the armed man of poverty to enter. And notice how it happens. It is not a sudden catastrophe. It is a little sleep, a little slumber. It is the accumulation of small bad decisions. It is hitting the snooze button. It is scrolling on social media for 3 hours. It is procrastinating on that project. These tiny moments of comfort compound into a massive tragedy. Solomon teaches that wealth requires intensity. It requires a militant attitude towards time. In Proverbs 10 verse 4 he says, "He who has a slack hand becomes poor, but the hand of the diligent makes rich." The word diligent here implies sharp, pointed and focused. It means working with precision and speed. It is not just about working hard, it is about working smart and fast. The wealthy understand that time is the only resource you cannot get back. They treat every hour as an investment. They are like the ant, constantly building, constantly gathering, constantly preparing for the winter. The church often enables passivity by telling people to just wait on the Lord. But Solomon teaches that waiting on the Lord does not mean sitting on the couch. It means working with excellence while trusting God for the results. Faith is not an excuse for laziness. Faith is the fuel for diligence. If you want to crack the wealth code, you have to kill the sluggard inside you. You have to stop negotiating with your feelings. You have to do the work when you do not feel like it, because the armed man is coming, and only the diligent will be ready to face him. But diligence alone is not enough. You can work hard and still lose everything if you do not understand the power of words. Solomon revealed that your mouth is the steering wheel of your financial destiny. The fourth secret of the code is perhaps the most mystical yet practical of all. It is the connection between your speech and your bank account. Solomon wrote in Proverbs 18 verse 21 that death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Most people treat this as a poetic metaphor for being nice. But in the Solomon Wealth Code, this is a literal economic mechanism. Your words are the software that programs your reality. If you are constantly speaking poverty, you will constantly experience poverty. Listen to the language of the poor. I cannot afford it. Money does not grow on trees. Rich people are evil. I will never get out of debt. These are not just observations, they are decrees. They are self-fulfilling prophecies. Solomon warned in Proverbs 13 verse 3 that he who guards his mouth preserves his life, but he who opens wide his lips shall have destruction. In the world of business negotiation and leadership, the tongue is the ultimate lever. One wise sentence can close $1 million deal. One foolish comment can destroy a 50-year reputation. Solomon taught that the wise store up knowledge, but the mouth of the foolish is near destruction. This means knowing when to shut up. In a negotiation, the person who speaks less usually wins. The person who reveals all their cards loses. Silence is a power move. But it is also about the quality of your words. Proverbs 10 verse 11 says, "The mouth of the righteous is a well of life." In a marketplace full of negativity, cynicism, and fear, the person who speaks hope, vision, and solutions becomes a magnet. People follow leaders who speak victory. Money follows vision. If you can articulate a compelling future, you can attract the capital to build it. This is why sales is the highest paid profession in the world. Sales is simply the transfer of belief through words. If you can use your tongue to build value, to solve problems, and to inspire trust, you will never be broke. But if your tongue is a tool of gossip, complaint, and negativity, you will repel every opportunity that comes your way. Solomon says in Proverbs 12 verse 18, "There is one who speaks like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise promotes health." Are your words piercing your own wallet? Are you killing your own potential with your speech? To activate the wealth code, you must audit your vocabulary. You must stop speaking like a victim and start speaking like an architect. An architect uses words to design a blueprint before the building exists. You must use your words to design your financial future before the money shows up. You call those things which are not as though they were. This is not magic, it is mindset. Your subconscious mind believes whatever you tell it most often. If you tell it you are a failure, it will sabotage your success to prove you right. If you tell it you are a diligent steward of God's wealth, it will find ways to manifest that reality. Change your tongue and you change your trajectory. But even with the right words and hard work, you can still fall into a trap that has destroyed more kings than war. That trap is debt, and Solomon had a warning about it that is terrifyingly clear. The fifth secret is a warning that the modern world has completely ignored. In Proverbs 22 verse 7, Solomon drops a truth bomb that exposes the entire global banking system. He says, "The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender." The word servant here in Hebrew is ibed, which literally means slave. When you borrow money, you are selling your future freedom for present consumption. You are becoming a slave to the lender. Every dollar you borrow is a link in a chain that binds you to a job you might hate, to a location you might want to leave, and to a master who does not care about your well-being. The credit card company is your master. The mortgage bank is your master. The student loan officer is your master. Solomon understood that you cannot serve God and mammon. If you are drowning in debt, your decisions are dictated by your payments, not by your purpose. You cannot give generously because you owe the bank. You cannot take a risk on a new business because you have a mortgage. You cannot go on a mission trip because you have car payments. Debt paralyzes the believer. It neutralizes their effectiveness in the kingdom. Solomon advises us to deliver ourselves from this trap with the intensity of a hunted animal. In Proverbs 6 verse 5 he says, "Deliver yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, and like a bird from the hand of the fowler." Have you ever seen a gazelle run from a cheetah? It is not jogging, it is sprinting for its life. It is making radical moves. It is focused on one thing only: survival. Solomon says that is how you should treat debt. Attack it, run from it, do whatever it takes to get free. Sell the car, downsize the house, work 2 jobs. Do not sleep peacefully while you're wearing chains. The modern economy is built on the lie that debt is a tool. They call it leverage. And while there is a place for strategic business debt, Solomon's general principle stands firm. The borrower is in a position of weakness. The lender is in a position of power. If you want to rule over your life, you must be the lender, not the borrower. Deuteronomy 28 confirms this promise, saying, "You shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow." This is the position of dominion. God wants his people to be the head and not the tail. The tail gets dragged around. The head decides where to go. You cannot be the head if you owe your soul to the bank. Breaking the debt cycle is the first step to reclaiming your sovereignty. It allows you to build real wealth that you actually own. It allows you to leave an inheritance for your children's children, as Proverbs 13 verse 22 commands. A good man leaves an inheritance. A slave leaves nothing but bills. The choice is yours. Will you be a slave to the lender or a steward for the Lord? But to stay free, you need more than just money management. You need discernment. Because there are traps set for you by people who want to steal your harvest. And Solomon identified the most dangerous trap of all. The sixth secret of the Solomon Wealth Code is not about money at all, but it is the primary reason why powerful men lose their money. It is the trap of sexual immorality. Solomon devotes entire chapters in Proverbs warning his son about the forbidden woman. In Proverbs 5 verse 9 and 10 he warns, "Lest you give your honor to others and your years to the cruel one, lest aliens be filled with your wealth and your labors go to the house of a foreigner." This is a direct financial warning. Sexual sin is expensive. It costs you your reputation, it costs you your family, and it literally transfers your wealth to others. Think about the wealthiest men in modern history who have lost half their empires due to divorce scandals or affairs. Think about the politicians whose careers were destroyed in a single night of indiscretion. Solomon calls this the deep pit. In Proverbs 23 verse 27 he says, "For a harlot is a deep pit, and a seductress is a narrow well. Once you fall in, it is incredibly difficult to get out." The narrow well implies that you are trapped, you are squeezed, and you are helpless. This principle applies to more than just adultery. It applies to any lack of self-control. If you cannot control your lust, you cannot control your wallet. The same lack of discipline that leads a man to a forbidden bed leads him to make impulsive investments, to gamble, or to spend recklessly. Wealth requires discipline. It requires the ability to say no to short-term pleasure for long-term gain. The adulterer sacrifices his entire future for 5 minutes of pleasure. That is the worst investment strategy in the world. Solomon teaches that wisdom is a tree of life, but sin is a fire that consumes the harvest. You can spend 20 years building a fortune and burn it down in 20 minutes of folly. Protecting your integrity is protecting your assets. A faithful man abounds with blessings, says Proverbs 28 verse 20. Faithfulness to your spouse, faithfulness to your word, faithfulness to your values. This builds a wall of protection around your life. When you are faithful, you are not vulnerable to blackmail. You are not vulnerable to lawsuits. You are not vulnerable to the guilt that eats away at your confidence. A clear conscience is a powerful business asset. It allows you to sleep at night. It allows you to look people in the eye. It allows you to lead with moral authority. Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines. He learned this lesson the hard way. His foreign wives turned his heart away from God and eventually split his kingdom. He wrote these warnings so that we would not make the same mistake. Guard your heart and guard your zipper, because your empire depends on it. But there is another relationship you must manage carefully, the relationship with your own ego. The seventh secret exposes the silent killer of success, pride. In Proverbs 16 verse 18, Solomon wrote the famous line, "Pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall." In the context of wealth, pride is the belief that you are the source of your own success. It is the "I made this" mentality. When a man becomes wealthy, he is tempted to think he is a genius. He stops listening to advice. He stops praying. He starts treating people with contempt. This is the beginning of the end. Solomon warns in Proverbs 18 verse 12 that before destruction the heart of a man is haughty, and before honor is humility. God has a systemic response to pride. He resists it. James 4 verse 6 says, God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. The word resist here is a military term. It means God sets himself in battle array against you. If you are proud, you are not just fighting the market, you are fighting God. You will lose that fight. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it is thinking of yourself less. It is acknowledging that every dollar, every idea, and every opportunity came from God. It is maintaining a teachable spirit. The moment you think you know everything is the moment you stop growing. And in business, if you are not growing, you are dying. Solomon, the wisest man on earth, constantly asked God for understanding. He did not rely on his own IQ, he relied on divine download. Humility also protects you from bad deals. A proud man is easily flattered. Con artists love proud men because they can manipulate them with compliments. A humble man is skeptical. He seeks counsel. Proverbs 15 verse 22 says, without counsel, plans go awry, but in the multitude of counselors, they are established. The humble man surrounds himself with people who are smarter than him. He invites criticism. He looks for his blind spots. The proud man fires anyone who disagrees with him. He builds an echo chamber that eventually collapses on his head. To keep your wealth, you must keep your ego small. You must remain a student. You must remember that you are a steward, not a king. The true king is watching how you handle his money, and he only entrusts more to those who can handle the weight of glory without breaking. But handling money is not just about keeping it. It is about using it to buy the only thing that lasts forever. The eighth secret of the Solomon Wealth Code is the ultimate purpose of wealth. It is not consumption, it is impact. Solomon taught that generosity is not a charity project, it is a spiritual law of increase. Proverbs 11 verse 25 says, the generous soul will be made rich, and he who waters will also be watered himself. This is the law of reciprocity. When you pour out, you create a vacuum that God fills. When you water others, God waters you. Most people think, I will give when I have more. Solomon says you have more because you give. Generosity breaks the grip of greed. It reminds you that money is a tool, not a god. In Proverbs 28 verse 27, he promises, he who gives to the poor will not lack, but he who hides his eyes will have many curses. This is a terrifying warning. Ignoring the needs around you brings a curse on your finances. It shuts down the flow of divine favor. But being a channel of blessing opens the windows of heaven. Solomon understood that true legacy is not what you leave for people, but what you leave in people. Wealth allows you to fund the kingdom. It allows you to feed the hungry. It allows you to fight injustice. It allows you to leave a mark on eternity. Jesus echoed this when he said, store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. How do you transfer earth currency to heaven currency? You give it away. You invest in people. You invest in the gospel. That is the only money you will see again. Everything else burns. Solomon ends his life in the book of Ecclesiastes, realizing that all his massive wealth, the gold, the palaces, the gardens, was vanity of vanities without God. He realized that the only thing that mattered was fearing God and keeping his commandments. This is the final safeguard of wealth: detachment. You must hold your money loosely. You must possess your possessions and not let your possessions possess you. If God asked you to give it all away, today could you do it? If the answer is no, you don't own the money owns you, and that is a form of slavery. True financial freedom is the ability to obey God instantly with your resources because you know He is the source and He can replenish it in a second. The ninth secret of the Solomon Wealth Code is the only asset that is more valuable than gold itself. It is reputation capital. In Proverbs 22 verse 1, Solomon weighs them on a scale. He says a good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, loving favor rather than silver and gold. Why would the richest man on earth say his name was worth more than his money? Because money can be stolen. Markets can crash. But a reputation for integrity is bulletproof. In the ancient world and the modern world, trust is the currency of kings. If you lose your money but keep your good name, you can rebuild your fortune because people will trust you. But if you keep the money and lose your name, you are bankrupt forever. Solomon warned against the false balance in Proverbs 11 verse 1, calling it an abomination. Cheating your customers or your employees might win you the quarter, but it will lose you the decade. The wicked generate cash fast, but the righteous generate trust forever. If you want to build an empire that lasts, you must prioritize character over quick profits. Your brand is your promise. Break the promise, and you break the bank. And this leads us to the 10th and final secret, which separates the rich from the wealthy. It is the time horizon. Poor people think about Friday. Rich people think about the next decade. But the wealthy think about the next century. Solomon reveals the dynasty mindset in Proverbs 13 verse 22. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. Notice the timeline, children's children, that is 3 generations. Solomon is commanding us to build something that outlives us. This changes how you invest. You stop looking for get-rich-quick schemes and start looking for long-term assets. You stop consuming everything you kill. You start building infrastructure for people you haven't even met yet. This is the ultimate defeat of selfishness. The sinner consumes everything in his lifetime. The righteous man plants trees under whose shade he will never sit. This is the vision of the kingdom. We are not just building a bank account, we are building a legacy that will fund the work of God long after we are gone. When you align your financial life with a multi-generational vision, you tap into a level of wisdom and endurance that the short-term thinker can never understand. You are playing the infinite game. Solomon's code challenges everything we are taught by the world. The world says hoard. Solomon says scatter. The world says borrow. Solomon says lend. The world says indulge. Solomon says discipline. The world says hustle until you drop. Solomon says trust the blessing. This ancient wisdom has built dynasties for thousands of years. It works because it is based on the design of the Creator himself. You have a choice. You can play by the world's rules and get the world's results, stress, anxiety, and sorrow. Or you can play by God's rules and step into a flow of abundance that adds no sorrow with it. The code is unlocked. The path is clear. But knowledge without action is just vanity. Will you implement these secrets or will you bury your talent in the ground? The future of your family depends on your answer. Subscribe if you are ready to build a kingdom legacy.